I am Kamali, taking you through the stories people are talking about and sharing around the world on NewsFeed today. Tweeting in all caps to threaten war, Donald Trump goes after Iran on social media. The United States allows for 3D gun blueprints to be shared online. We take you to Seoul Airport, where robots are now taking you to your gates. And why has this whiny dog racked up millions of views on Twitter? It's animals doing stuff. Now, top of our newsfeed, Rouhani is trending after an all-caps tweet from the President of the United States threatening war with Iran. Now, it's not the first time that Donald Trump has set US policy through Twitter. It's not the first time he's threatened another nation with attack. Remember Fire and Fury? Well, it was 11:24 p.m. when President Trump wrote this. To the Iranian President Rouhani, never ever threaten the United States again, or you will suffer consequences the likes of which few throughout history have ever suffered before. We are no longer a country that will stand for your demented words of violence and death. Be cautious. And as you can imagine, people on Twitter have been all over this. Some have found some of old Citizen Trump tweets, like this one from 2013, where he writes, "I predict that President Obama will at some point attack Iran in order to save face." Looks a lot like now after the past week or so that you've had. Now, others are calling on Twitter to do something as a matter of global security. This one says, "Twitter, you're the only one with the juice. Please disable Trump's account for the world's sake." And finally, the irony of the president using Twitter to threaten the Iranian president is not lost on this tweeter, who writes, "Twitter's been blocked in Iran since 2009. And now, there are, of course, huge implications when the leader of the world's biggest economy and the world's most powerful military makes policy in 280 characters. And it's not just his tweeting that's having a global impact. Here's Tamina.
Donald Trump. There's no doubt he's an unconventional American president, but maybe we shouldn't be paying so much attention to what people are saying about him and instead look more closely at how significant his presidency will be and what lasting effect it will have. He's been busy both domestically and internationally. Recently, the decision by Justice Anthony Kennedy to retire means Trump will get to pick at least 2 Supreme Court judges, the first being Neil Gorsuch, who was confirmed in April 2017, and the second being the recently nominated Brett Kavanaugh, allowing this sitting president to potentially shape the nation's highest court for decades to come. This is a big deal. The Supreme Court makes decisions on key issues like civil rights, equality, gender, and government. Trump's decisions on immigration are just as important. The implementation of what is being called the Muslim travel ban and the strengthening of ICE, the Immigration Enforcement Agency, by adding 10,000 new employees and signing executive orders that force the detention of new immigrants. Trump's expanded a previously rarely used tactic of separating families at the border, sometimes even those who crossed legally and presented themselves for asylum. This, along with the border wall project, are just some examples of how his administration has acted decisively on their anti-immigration rhetoric. In all fairness, Trump ran and was elected on this very platform. Next, his tax bill. The first major tax reform in decades could be just as influential. It focuses on tax cuts to the rich, businesses and corporations, blowing up the national deficit from $665 billion to $804 billion in 2018 alone. He also fired the director of the FBI, undermined relations with the media, and continually uses social media to attack his opponents. His actions and words have begun to also shape the political landscape, with many Republican candidates now mirroring Trump's rhetoric, including primary winners Katie Arrington, Corey Stewart, and Henry McMaster.
We are the party of President Donald J. Trump.
Internationally, Trump has been just as consequential. His policies have put him at odds with longtime allies, including Germany, France, and even Canada, all of whom are key NATO partners. He has constantly called for NATO member nations to pay more in defense, threatening to leave or to change the involvement of the United States, upending years of American foreign policy.
I'm going to tell NATO, you got to start paying your bills. The United States is not going to take care of everything.
He's also started a massive trade war with China and Canada, where taxes on particularly imports into America are met with taxes on American exports to those countries. Trump says he's helping bring jobs back home, but these kinds of trade wars cause job losses, rising prices, and lead to a slowing economy. His international diplomacy has also been unique. He's the first sitting president to meet with a North Korean leader and has reshaped the way the world sees Kim Jong-un.
So he's a very smart guy. He's a great negotiator. But I think we understand each other.
His decision to move the Israeli embassy to Jerusalem caused protests around the world, especially in Gaza, with many saying the move's killing any hope for a two-state solution. The US is also now the only country in the world not signed onto the Paris Accord, a non-binding agreement which attempts to set targets to address climate change. And it's also the only country to have left the Iran deal, which was signed to stop Iranian nuclear development and to ease sanctions against them. All of these changes, whether they are seen as positive or negative, are all major moves, shifting the position of the US on the international stage. There may be criticisms of Trump and many who disagree with his approach, but there's no denying he has been consequential and will shape American policies at home and abroad for years to come.
All right, let's take a look at what else is trending on social media. The TV host Trevor Noah is in trouble again after a stand-up set he did in 2013 resurfaced this week. In it, he made some jokes about Indigenous Australians. They were out of line, saying that he's never met an attractive Aboriginal woman. Now, we can't show you the video because it's been wiped from the internet, but not before a whole bunch of people in Australia got to see it. He's about to start a tour there, and people are now calling for a boycott. Now, overnight, Noah addressed the controversy on Twitter, saying that after visiting a museum and learning more about Aboriginal history, he vowed never to make the joke again. He says he'll make sure the clip is not promoted in any way. Now, did you notice that something was missing from there? No S word. And the fact that he's not said sorry has made people madder still. On Saturday, a British visual artist took to Twitter to complain that one of his works had been lost on its way to a festival in Austria. Now, I know that stuff gets lost in the post all the time, but this was pretty hard to lose. It's a 7-meter replica of the moon. So using the hashtag #FindTheMoon, Luke Jerram harnessed a bit of people power to track it down. And today he's tweeted that it's been found and he's over the moon, and has thanked the delivery company for their astronomical effort. Can you believe it's been 8 years since One Direction were formed? Me neither. It's been 8 years since 5 average singers from the UK were put together after being on a talent show called The X Factor. And now the hashtag 8 years One Direction is trending worldwide after the band tweeted this over the weekend, and people began tweeting the songs that they're listening to. Now, after a long legal fight in the United States, blueprints for 3D printed guns will be available to anyone who wants them from next month. They've been created by a guy called Cody Wilson, who describes himself as an anarchist and a libertarian. Now, his work has been fully funded by Bitcoin donations. Now, some people in the US are worried it'll allow people there to get around already lax gun control laws. Take you around the world for some other stories you need to know this Monday. Now, the DC Universe is about to get its first transsexual superhero. Her name is Dreamer, and she'll appear in the 4th season of Supergirl, played by the trans actress Nicole Maines.
Having trans women portrayed by cis men contributed to that idea that we are men in dresses. And that was damaging for a long time. You know, I think we're in a time right now where more than ever representation in the media matters. And what we see on television has a very dramatic effect on our society.
Now, just days after several protesters were killed by Israeli forces in the Gaza Strip, tens of thousands of people have held a rally in Tel Aviv calling for equal rights for gay parents. Last week, a new law was passed allowing single women to have a baby through a surrogate. Gay rights groups are demanding for the same rights for single men. The French President Emmanuel Macron says he will review the way his office works after a video appeared last week. It shows one of his bodyguards pretending to be a cop and hitting protesters in Paris back in May. Alexander Benalla has been sacked and is being questioned by police on assault charges. Now, you ever want a waterboarding kit signed by the former Vice President of the United States, Dick Cheney? Well, for a few hours this morning, you could have bid on one. I managed to screen grab the eBay auction page before it was taken down. It's part of the promo for comedian Sacha Baron Cohen's new show, Who is America?, in which he pretends to be an Israeli that's trying to get Americans to make fools of themselves. And in Trump-related blimp news, people in San Francisco have launched a new Trump chicken. As you can see, he's dressed in prison clothes, but what you can't see is he's prisoner number 45. He's also the 45th president. Coincidence? It follows the Trump baby, which was aloft in the UK after the president's visit there a couple of weeks ago. Now, robots that can show you where your check-in desk is, give you your departure gate, and also tell you when your plane's going to take off will be at Incheon Airport in Seoul, South Korea. Ollie's been to meet one.
This is one of 14 brand new robots that's going to be roaming around Incheon International Airport's terminals helping passengers. It can speak 4 languages: English, Korean, Japanese and Chinese. It can show 14 different emotions. It can take you to a place that you want to go, say if you ask for the nearest toilet or if you want to know where your check-in desk is. It can also take restricted items from you that would have otherwise been taken. Here we go, prohibited items that would have been taken at the security checkpoint. So let's give it a go. AirStar. Collect items. So now what it's going to do, it'll turn around, and as you can see here, this is the container where it keeps all of the stuff, and then if I want, I can just drop things in there. I'm not going to lose my phone, obviously.
It was really entertaining, and I think it's really helpful.
The robot can help people something that is fun, that is good, I think.
It would be very helpful to have these kind of toys in all airports around the world.
Now, this is by no means the first robot that's been designed for an airport environment. Dutch airline KLM has just finished a trial of a robot it calls Carry that will carry your suitcase to the gate. Can you see what they did with the name there? There's also been a trial at Geneva Airport. Their robot checks you in curbside and then takes the bags to the conveyor belt. Well, Incheon Airport staff have told me that what separates AirStar from all of the other robots is that this isn't on a trial, this is now going to be rolled out on a full-time basis to help passengers here.
This is the first time in the world an airport has introduced robots on this scale.
But there's a big debate that's brewing right now about robots and whether they're going to take jobs from people. Some reports say that almost 50% of jobs could go to automation. Well, here at the airport, the people who are behind the scheme say this robot is not quite there yet, but it could be in the future.
And it's Monday, and we have an animal doing stuff, and it's a musical dog. This video of Riley has been viewed millions of times since Serona Matt posted it on Friday, saying, "Is it just me, or does Riley sound like he's singing Toxic by Britney Spears?" Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with Britney's back catalogue, have a listen to the original.
Baby, can't you see I'm calling? A guy like you should wear a warning. It's dangerous. I'm falling.
Magnificent work by my producer Ezra there to put that together. That is your lot from the NewsFeed team. Do reach out to us with your questions, comments, complaints and suggestions. I'm at Kamali Melbourne. You'll find us 24/7 on Twitter, YouTube and Facebook. follow, subscribe, and add. See you again tomorrow.